I mean, what more can be said?
One more Sunday.
One more Sunday. Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to be discussing how Islam repackaged tribalism. We're going to be reacting to this video by Raymond Ibrahim.
Yes.
He's a historian, Islam expert,
Christian
I suppose,
historian.
Christian.
Yeah.
He specializes in Islam basically, and the study of Islam and the history behind it and all that stuff. And yeah, considering just the way the majority of the West, I suppose, is going, I think it's quite prudent to be informed about this, especially considering if you study history and you see how Islam infiltrated a lot of the then Western civilization, but prior to that, the more you dig, the more you realize that Islam infected the East first. A lot of the older civilizations in the East were originally Christian. Syria, for instance, Turkey. A lot of them were initially Christian, so the early Christians did a good job in evangelizing quite a lot of the East, and they were actually the first countries that became Christian. And then the West adopted Christianity, and then unfortunately the Islamists, Mohammedans, they overtook the Eastern countries, and then all of a sudden it became a big deal when they started encroaching on the Western countries. But it only became a big deal, it seems, to the West when they started encroaching on Western lands. And yeah, I think it's important considering what is happening in the world now. And once again, it is funny how history does have a way of repeating itself, because people don't learn the lessons that they should, I suppose. And it's unfortunate and quite sad.
And we are allowing people who are so removed from life to actually make up rules and laws that do not change their Monday to Monday life. They actually live with security, high walls, everything. And in South Africa, it's like the ones in power have actually sided with Muslims.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the video. It's about 10 minutes long, and then we can discuss and talk as the video progresses.
Despite its religious veneer, Islam can easily be defined and understood by one non-religious word: tribalism. This is key. The entire appeal of Muhammad's call to the Arabs of his time lay in its perfect compatibility with their tribal mores, three in particular. loyalty to one's tribe, enmity for other tribes, and raids on the latter to enrich and empower the former. For 7th century Arabs, and later tribal and pastoral peoples, such as the Turks and Tatars, or Mongols, who also found natural appeal in and converted to Islam, the tribe was what humanity is to modern people. To be part of the tribe was to be treated humanely. To be outside the tribe was to be treated inhumanely. Period.
So it does seem to me that just based off of that, it seems that you've got this tribalism aspect, which is kind of at the forefront of Islam doctrine, and I suppose this is what caused so many of these people to gravitate toward Islam. In the beginning, it's the sense of it's always us against them. So if you can somehow broaden that scope and form a religion, but still keep that same ethos as us against them,
Yeah.
which is very contrary to, first of all, Western thought, and then also Judeo-Christian thought, where it's, you're not my enemy because you don't believe the same way I do. I would like you to, but I've got no intention to be hostile to you should you not choose to believe like I do.
Yes, and I've got no reason to actually harm you.
And I think this is also where Christianity separates itself from Islam regarding being a witness.
Yes.
My salvation, me entering into heaven, is not determined by how many people I convert to my religion, my Christianity. That's not what gets me into heaven. Where it does seem that that is incredibly the case with Islam.
Yeah.
It's incumbent on them, in order to be a good Muslim, you need to go and enforce Islam. The word Muslim means submit.
Submit.
It's in the name. So it does seem to me their salvation is incredibly dependent upon them enforcing, enslaving, raiding, forcing people to submit to Islam.
Yeah.
So it's a great incentive, if anything, I suppose, for them to be violent.
Yes, and they can actually hide behind that, you know. That they just actually following the Quran.
Yeah, and they can
It
hide
says-
behind that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's an evil way of looking at
Life.
being a witness.
Yes.
You know, Jesus does talk about going and making disciples of all nations, but Jesus also says, if they will not listen, dust your sandals off and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not up to you to make people change and to make people convert.
Yeah.
You can simply spread the good news. If people choose to or not choose to, it's okay. Your salvation is secure.
But then, for me, it shows me that they are very, very insecure.
That's right. It does seem like they're quite insecure in their religion, because their religion, and once again, that's why it's a religion, because it's all about you have to keep up your good works, violence and bloodshed, really, in order for your so-called God, which is actually really Muhammad, it's not even Allah, to be pleased. Yeah, well, we can, in order to be pleased with you.
Muhammad reinforced this ancient dichotomy of tribalism, but by prioritizing religion over relatives. Thus, in his Constitution of Medina, which he promulgated with various non-Muslim tribes in 622, he asserted that, quote, "A believer shall not slay a believer for the sake of an unbeliever, nor shall he aid an unbeliever against a believer."
And there you go. That's another instance where that's quite different with Christianity. A believer shall not slay a believer for the sake of an unbeliever, nor shall he aid an unbeliever against a believer. That's where our difference is. If you confirm Christianity and you're a believer, and I confirm Christianity and I'm a believer, yet there's a person in our midst that is an unbeliever. But should you do something that's bad as a believer, and this unbeliever does something that's good, I'll criticize you for doing something that's bad, and I will applaud them for doing something that's good, even though they're an unbeliever. Because with Christianity, once again, your actions don't determine your salvation. It's who do you believe in. Therefore, a believer, a Christian, can get it wrong at times.
Yeah.
But they can be held to account, and that's okay.
And it's also up to us to actually correct each other.
Yeah.
We can't just let things slide. And I've seen many secular people doing good things.
Yeah. It doesn't make them Christian, but it is a good thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they can see.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't.
It's
Yeah.
actually good or bad.
Yeah, and it doesn't make them saved because they do a good thing, in as much as it doesn't make a believer lost if they do a bad thing. Once again, it goes back to your belief, and your core principles is you need a savior. You've recognized Jesus Christ as the one true God, and that's where that distinction versus ours is completely different. And because then, you could basically get away with where Paul talks about, shall we continue in sin so that grace may abound? According to that line of
Certainly
thought,
not. Yeah.
you would say, yes, you can,
Yes.
because you're a believer.
There you are.
Ergo, all things are permissible to you because you're a believer. And an unbeliever, no matter what good they do, you still criticize them.
Yeah, and this is what just really amazes me about these so-called protests, that just people my age marching and shouting and everything, have they not learnt anything?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think a lot of mainstream media teaches you about the truth of Islam, or whatever the case may be.
No, but it's not only that. It's like you actually were around when things were actually exploding, and you got told who was actually behind it, and you've now totally submitted to this new way of thinking.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's nothing worse for me as like actually getting old and stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think that, well, with age comes wisdom, but
We're supposed to.
the older I'm getting, the older I'm realizing, it's simply just...
Yeah,
it's
it's like you've got
not
to
always the case.
go back and actually see what happened.
Let's try and make some headway with this video.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Moreover, all Muslims were to become, quote, friends one to the other, to the exclusion of outsiders, unquote.
Yeah, that mindset is...
Hence, the Ummah, which is often translated as Muslim nation, was born. Etymologically connected to the word mother, the Ummah came to signify the Islamic supertribe, a sort of universal tribe that transcends racial, national, and linguistic barriers, encompassing any and all who identify as Muslims. And its natural enemies remained everyone outside of it. Again, this is basic tribalism 1.0,
Yeah.
though as mentioned with a religious covering or veneer. Or consider the Islamic doctrine of al-wala wal-bara, which I talk about often, which is translated as loyalty and enmity or love and hate. Muhammad preached it, and the Quran commands it. Taken together, for example, Quran 58:22 and 64 call on all Muslims to renounce and disown their non-Muslim relatives. Quote, even if they be their fathers, their sons, their brothers, or their nearest kindred. End quote. And to feel only enmity and hatred for them until they believe in Allah alone. That is, until they become Muslim. Check out those verses sometime, assuming your English Quran translation is an honest one. Anyway, those two verses, Quran 58:22 and 64, are referring to a number of Muhammad's close companions who, according to Islamic history, renounced and eventually slaughtered their own non-Muslim relatives as a show of their loyalty to Allah, Muhammad, and the believers. Examine Ibn Kathir's tafsir of Surah Al-Mujadila, verse 22. This ayah was revealed during the Badr robbery when Abu Ubaidah killed his own father. Likewise, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the first rightly guided caliph, almost killed his non-Muslim son, Abdurrahman. Similarly, Musab bin Umair is said to have slain his brother, Ubaid bin Umair, while Umar reportedly killed one of his relatives. Additionally, figures such as Hamza, Ali, and Ubaidah bin al-Harith also took the lives of close family members. For more on al-wala wal-bara, see my 60-page translation of Dr. Ayman al-Zawahri's treatise on this doctrine in my 2007 book, The Al-Qaeda Reader. At any rate, from here we come to the natural origin of jihad. Tribalistic blood ties were exchanged for religious ones. Thereby dividing the world into two mega tribes. The believers in one tent and their natural enemies, the non-believers or infidels, in another. And as we've seen, the essence of tribalism is warring and preying on other tribes in order to empower your own. This dichotomized worldview is actually enshrined in Islamic law or Sharia's mandate that Dar al-Islam, the abode of Islam or the world of Islam, must battle Dar al-Kufr, the abode of non-Islam, in perpetuity until the former subjugates the latter.
Easy move.
In, for example,
Yeah,
the Encyclopedia of Islam,
great.
we read under the entry for jihad that, quote, the spread of Islam by arms is a religious duty upon Muslims in general. Jihad must continue to be
at
done
that.
until the whole world is under the rule of Islam. Islam must completely be made over before the doctrine of jihad can be eliminated.
In other words, the doctrine of jihad, warfare on the other, is so pivotal to Islam that without it, Islam ceases to be.
This is the path of blood that we have chosen. We will complete our jihad journey to the end.
Allahu Akbar, eh?
Islam's apotheosis or deification of tribalism also explains why tribal societies other than the Arabs also gravitated to and found Islam appealing. Consider the Turkic people's oldest epic, the Book of Dedi Korkut. Although newly converted to Islam, the Turks of this epic regularly engage in pagan practices banned by Islam. They eat horse meat, drink wine and other fermented drinks, and their women are, in comparison to Muslim women, relatively free and independent. It's only in the context of raids on the other, on the infidel, a smooth and easy transition from raids on the tribal outsider, that Islam finally becomes evident in their lives. Here, for example, is a typical pre-battle boast from the Turks of the epic.
I shall raid the bloody infidel's land. I shall cut off heads and spill blood.
Excellent.
I shall make the infidel vomit blood. I shall bring back slaves and slave girls.
Here is another typical account of these new Turkish converts' pious exploits. Quote, they, the early Turkic converts, destroyed the infidels' church. They killed its priests and made a mosque in its place.
Great.
They had the call to prayer proclaimed. They had the invocation, or the shahada, recited in the name of Allah Almighty. The best of the hunting birds, the purest of stuffs, the loveliest of girls they selected. Aside from preying on the infidel other, which already came natural to the pre-Islamic Turks, any and all non-violent aspects of Islam, fasting, zakat, pilgrimage, are totally absent from the lives of these earliest Turkic converts, as portrayed in the book of Dedi Korkut.
Interesting. What a double standard.
We, the Turks, take the most practical route to heaven, okay? You can go ahead and do fasting, zakat, hajj, and whatever else. But you'll still end up in hell. But if I skip all of that and focus on jihad, then I'm guaranteed heaven, whether I live or die.
Yeah, so I just, it's I find such double standards. Because you can go ahead and ignore all the religious things that you're supposed to do. But if you perform the bloodshed, that makes everything else that you've ignored in your religion correct.
Yeah. And it's like, where is the noble things? As we, until you know, noble,
Yeah.
pure, and like, what do you leave? Nothing.
Yeah. No, it's really just I don't really understand how you can equate this with morality.
Yeah, and it's like, don't you see what is going on? I mean, you're going to a town, let's say, and the people are actually farming, building, living.
They're doing something productive, yeah. They're being,
And you just go in there and, okay, destroy.
yeah,
There is murder, rape, fires. And then, like, you just move on.
yeah. And I know, like Muslims will bring up the instances in the Old Testament,
Yeah, I've heard that.
and it's a poor way of looking at it, because there was a reason that had to happen. There was a reason, and that was in order to bring Jesus Christ.
Yes.
When you now, because this is where they get stuck, after the New Testament, where is murdering, where is pillaging, where is raiding, if they want to use that line of thought, which is done in the Old Testament, fine, let's go with that. In the New Testament, however, and subsequently past the New Testament up till the present day, let's say Judeo-Christian values have always been attempting to end slavery, attempting to, and sure, they can bring up the whole, but white people were slave owners too. Agreed, they were, but it was condemned. The point is, other white people brought a stop to it. It's considered not a good thing.
Yes.
However, in Islam, it does seem like it's considered
Right thing.
slavery, pillaging, murder is considered law.
Yes.
You are required to do it.
Yeah.
In Christianity, it's considered condemned, even though, yes, people did do it, but it's considered not good according to the standard of the Bible, whereas theirs is considered mandated according to the Quran.
And if you do history research, the first slavers happened to be Muslims.
And you can Google it yourself. it's up till today.
Yeah.
Still present, still in operation.
Forget everything you knew about war games. The large-scale
Yeah, people like their war games.
action game War Thunder will bring you a storm of
Islam.
unforgettable...
Even so, the older Muslim peoples, the Arabs and Persians, praise the new converts simply because
Well, they fight in the way of Allah, waging jihad against the infidels. So that's good, right?
being
Sure,
committed to the
that's
jihad has
good.
always gone a long way to exonerate otherwise un-Islamic behavior among Muslims, as if one group of Muslims is
Well, yeah, at least they're doing the hard part, war on infidels, so give them a break.
embraced Islam, the Tatars. As the Dominican friar Ricoldo, who died in 1320 and who spent about a decade in the Muslim world, once observed, Tatars had adopted Islam because it was the easy religion, as Christianity was the hard one.
Yeah.
For those who love to plunder as a way to earn a living, choose Islam, okay?
Yeah,
Prophet
sure, it's easy
Muhammad
just
did
to
the
kill
same,
and
and it is
destroy.
permitted
Yeah.
by Allah.
Yeah, it is easy, I suppose, yeah.
You need to
By that
understand that we
rationality, yeah.
embraced Islam because it offers the best way to make a living, by plundering and robbing the infidels to please Allah. That's the key point.
That, you know, that's interesting. That's
other
actually, that is exactly it, I suppose, isn't it? That's exactly it. It's you're hiding your baser instincts
behind.
behind a veneer of religion. Really, is what
Yeah.
you're doing. You know, you like plundering, you like
Murdering,
raping and murdering and
yeah.
stuff like that, and getting booty, and booty, I suppose. Whatever. You like these things because they're baser animal instincts. And how better if you could hide those baser instincts with I'm doing it for my God.
Allah, yeah.
And somehow these baser instincts, now because you're doing under a religious banner, it's considered a good thing.
My thing is, what are you building?
Well, that's exactly it. Because
Nothing.
once again, that same concept is it's easier and more enjoyable to destroy things.
Yeah.
And Christianity, the superior religion, it's effort and work to create.
Yes.
That's why we serve God, the creator.
And they serve God, the
Destroyer.
destroyer. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
It is as simple as
And
that.
the Bible says, you shall know them by their fruit. There you have it.
Whereas Islam complemented their pre-existing tribal way of living, including by giving them license to prey on all outsiders, Christianity only challenged it.
So it is that
Exactly.
Muhammad's most enduring contribution to world history is that in repackaging the tribal mores of 7th century Arabia through a theological paradigm, he also deified tribalism into a sort of hyper-tribalism,
Deified tribalism.
causing
That's
it to
exactly
outlive
it.
its historic setting and dramatically spill into the modern era. Hence the notorious resistance to assimilation in the West, the creation of enclaves and clannish
Yeah.
no-go zones in Europe, and the constant flare-outs of
And
hate
they
crimes and terrorism.
Yeah.
Whereas many world civilizations have been
And it's
able
funny,
to
they're
break
a
away
protected
from,
class in the
or
West
at least
now.
temper their historic tribalism, this has
Come
not
on,
been
man.
and cannot be so easy for Islam.
For Muslims to break away from tribalism is for them to break away from Allah's laws. That's just not possible.
If Allah wants us to be primitive forever, then so be it.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
If Allah wanted us to be primitive forever.
So yeah, folks, there it is. I mean, what more
So,
can be said?
and I really think the church has failed.
Yeah.
It's welcomed
yeah.
and been soft and simpish
Yeah.
and
Well, as we know, I mean, I think it was 632 when Islam came on the scene and started taking over and pillaging and doing their tribalistic things. You know, the first crusades only started in 1095. So I mean, that's what, 400 years? 400 years of, I suppose, I'm sure there was, you know, small little resistances in that time, but I mean, you know, the first formalized crusade was only done in 1095. So that's 400 years of, I suppose, the church either being ignorant about it or knowing about it and simply, well, you know, who are we to, you know, in the meantime, those were the atrocities that were being done.
And that's why I maintain it's time for another crusade. Well, actually, it should have happened years ago. But, yeah, and you're right. You cannot say anything about Muslims. It is against the law in Europe, UK.
Yeah.
Most probably it will start or has started in South Africa. Not that I am aware of it yet.
Yeah. Well, we know where the government's allegiances lie, I suppose.
Oh, yes, definitely.
That is clear.
Definitely. And the way South Africa is going is a joke, because this party has been in power way too long, and it's gone to their heads.
Yeah.
And they've been lied to about, you know, the old South Africa. There were two, like, bathrooms, one for the white people and one for the black people. Is that all? There was so much more.
Yeah, bringing up bathrooms and taking pictures of benches where it says white people only, black people only. Yeah, that's a simplistic way of looking at it. It was quite a lot more than that. But anyway, that was pretty much the talk for today.
Yeah.
Check you guys.
Thank you for watching.